Well, hello, very good evening. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages tomorrow morning as they arrive hot off the press. And it's time to see what's making the headlines with the editor-in-chief of the newspaper group National World Cities, Nancy Fielder. We're also joined by the former Conservative MP and Royal Advisor, Mary McLeod. Very good evening to you both. We'll be with you just shortly. First, though, we are going to have a look at what's on those front pages now, starting with the Financial Times. It has word of thousands of redundancies at Twitter as its new owner, Elon Musk, warns of a massive loss in revenue for the social media platform. On the same story, the Daily Star's infamous head of lettuce is making a return, this time with Mr. Musk as its target, suggesting his tenure at Twitter could be even shorter than Liz Truss's premiership. In a wide-ranging interview with The Times tomorrow morning, Rishi Sunak pledges to regain the public's trust after Ms Truss's brief stint with Number 10, but warns that the state cannot fix everyone's problems. And the Express warns that Mr Sunak, that its readers will not vote Tory again if he ditches the long-standing pledge to maintain a triple lock on pensions. Possible changes to tax rates on pensions is the main concern as well for The Telegraph. And The Guardian tomorrow quotes the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, insisting that rich countries must do more or do a deal with poorer counterparts at the forthcoming COP27 climate summit, or else, in his words, we will be doomed. A cyber attack on the NHS 3 months ago has left patients' records and, by extension, their care in a state of chaos. That's according to the newspaper. And onto the Mirror now. It hears that the former Health Secretary Matt Hancock isn't only taking part in I'm a Celebrity, he's also skipped the Conservative Party conference to appear in Channel 4's celebrity SAS Who Dares Wins, which is yet to be shown. The Mail carries new claims surrounding the disappearance of Lord Lucan in the 1970s. And The Sun reports that the veteran actress Patsy Kensit will soon join the cast of EastEnders. Quick reminder as well for you that by scanning the QR code you'll see on the screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch with us. So we are joined tonight by Nancy Fielder and Mary McLeod. Let's chat to them now. Ladies, thank you so much for staying up late on a Friday night to talk to us. Let's start off with the Times newspaper, a wide-ranging. They say that the first major sit-down interview with our new Prime Minister. He's telling us that he's going to regain the public's trust and he can't fix all of our problems. Nancy, what do you make of it?
Well, I mean, I think my first reaction has to be they've certainly created a lot of our problems, so they should at least step up and fix the ones that they can. It is a very in-depth interview. It is quite interesting to sort of see a side of him we haven't seen for quite a while. Obviously, there was the leadership campaign when it was all about attacking each other. Now it's a very, very interesting read for people who are interested in the latest Prime Minister. But there's nothing reassuring in there. He's trying to be calm. He's trying to look like this is the party and the leader that the country needs. But there is no promise to actually help people. He says he'll do what he can, but actually there is a lot that can be done that isn't being done, and he's not really tackling anything head on. So while it's a nice read, it doesn't really reassure me at all. And I don't think it'll reassure many of the previous Labour voters who voted for Boris Johnson at the last election.
Yeah, he goes on to say that he recognises the anxiety that millions of people have about mortgage repayments, and he's going to do everything he can to get a grip. But he's saying that there's a limit to government intervention, Mary.
Yes, and I think what he's also just trying to be is very realistic in this and really showing that this is unprecedented times and therefore there's some big issues right now, and it's not even in months ahead, it's right now. And it's I think the period that this will last is for some time, and therefore he can't be hugely reassuring because that will come in the things that he delivers as part of the budget statement, and then when he delivers those things alongside the Chancellor. So, I mean, what he has said is that he's promised to be fair and compassionate, which I hope he will be. But we will find that out in the weeks ahead when we hear the statements in Parliament. But, you know, he's very clearly sort of saying, I'm being honest, I'm being realistic about the size and the scale scale of the challenge that we have. But there's this urgent need, naturally, to restore economic stability. But it won't happen overnight. It's going to take time, and therefore it will be very difficult. And we can think back to the times where we've had austerity and previous, economic crises where people have really suffered. And my concern is that, yes, we've seen inflation and the impact on interest rates, and I just worry that, yes, it affects mortgages, but the debt that people are going to potentially get into and not being able to deal with, that I think this will affect far more people than is even anticipated.
And just digging a bit further into the article, he also talks about, he's defending claims apparently by Suella Braverman, I should say, the Home Secretary, that Britain was facing an invasion of illegal immigrants and pledged to cut overall levels of migration. I mean, the government's had a difficult week, haven't they, to say the least, on the issue of asylum seekers. What did you make of his decision there to defend his Home Secretary, Nancy?
I don't think he's got much choice. He made the rather silly decision to give her the job, and it is pretty indefensible. But here we are again with the Prime Minister defending somebody who, quite frankly, shouldn't be in the job. And it's a shame. I mean, we all need a good Prime Minister, whatever your politics. Right now, this country really, really needs some good, strong leadership. And he's distracted. Everybody is distracted by somebody who's not very clear, who shouldn't be in the job, and who is using words that shouldn't be used, inflammatory words against people who we should be helping. And it's a massive, massive issue. There is no easy answer, but it's been dealt with really, really badly. And everybody knows, actually, we just need to really focus on how we help immigrants, but actually we've got massive problems here too. So the sort of fighting over who is right in the job is really causing more problems, and we just need solutions.
Yeah, I can imagine. And also, just a nice bit of colour there, saying that he hadn't expected to become Prime Minister because, of course, he lost the leadership campaign over summer and he had moved on. So there you go. Let's move on to some other stories now, Mary, and onto the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Pensions targeted in stealth tax raid. Of course, we're going to find out, aren't we, in a couple of weeks, what they've got up their sleeve in terms of tax hikes for all of us. What are the Telegraph saying?
Yes, and I think it's it'll be a worrying story for lots of pensioners, and that's, I think, what's so disturbing about some of the press at the moment. There's just so much sort of negativity out there. I mean, it's real, so it should be on there, but it's just it's very depressing read for most people. And this, of course, on the pensioners front as well, is that they will really, if they sort of roll back on some of the promises that were made to pensioners, then that will cause huge problems down the line for the government. So something that they will be taking very seriously, but we won't know, of course, until that budget statement comes out and we hear more about it. But they will certainly, I mean, pensioners are known to say what they think, and they will not let this drop in terms of what they would have expected to get the support and backing of the government, especially at these difficult times. And we also, we just, we're coming into winter. It's going to be a moment where the more vulnerable are always, the more elderly as well. And therefore, we should be backing them as much as possible. So, yeah, an interesting moment. And again, the government will be judged on how they deal with it.
Nancy, what do you think? Is the government right to look again at the pension triple lock, an area that has been kind of seen as a holy grail for many governments?
I think the government's got to look at everything right now. I think we really, really need to find ways to save money. But actually, it feels like we've never come out of austerity. I don't feel we've ever had a time where there's been a good time for public services. The NHS is crippled. We'll talk about transport later, no doubt, but the trains and buses are awful. And actually, our pensioners are sat there really, really worried. Everybody is worried about what is coming up this winter. Every year in cities like mine, in cities like Sheffield, there are pensioners who die because they don't put their heating on because they can't afford it. Imagine what that is going to be like this winter, because it's going to be much, much worse than ever. So they have got to look at everything. But they're doing flip-flopping, U-turning everywhere. So some reassurance as to what they're actually going to do, and let us at least try and deal with it, would be good.
Yeah, interesting to move on to the Express now, because they're taking the same story but with a very different stance. Of course, we know the Daily Express has always been a champion for for pensioners, and that you can certainly tell that with its headline, "Ditch the triple lock and we won't vote Tory again," they're saying, Mary.
Yes, that's really what I was, mentioning earlier, is that they absolutely will make it very clear about how they feel about this issue. I mean, they always felt the triple lock was a promise that was given them, and were absolutely believe that therefore would be delivered. So therefore, this is about watching this space in terms of what will be in that budget. I mean, what's interesting about some of the stories coming out is that it's almost, I think, the government trying to manage the markets in terms of what might be in that, and also help, I guess, so public opinion feel that there aren't so many surprises. But these are going to be a completely, I agree with Nancy there that this will be, an awful winter for a lot of people, and it's not going to end at winter; it's going to go on. And there's just so much geopolitical uncertainty. There is so much disruption out there everywhere you look, and therefore this is going to be really tough. And I think what I guess the Prime Minister has tried to do is say, look, I'm listening. We will try and be fair and help those most in need. So I really hope he does do that.
OK, on to The Guardian now. We will be doomed without a climate pact, says the UN chief. Of course, this is head of COP27 that takes place in Egypt this weekend, Nancy. Are you hopeful? I mean, we've just talked about how bleak the outlook is for the UK, but also for many other countries around the world. I mean, are you hopeful that countries will put their current problems aside for a bit to look at a long-term future, try and save the planet? Do you have any hope?
No, I wish I could say that. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I mean, it doesn't seem a long time ago since we were in Glasgow and everyone was making the promises and everyone was saying, oh, the next year is crucial. And here we are a year later, in the blink of an eye, all sorts of things have happened. And actually what has progressed? Now, small things may have progressed, but the whole focus of this seems to be on making people commit and actually take action rather than just giving us words. And it's quite a simple message, actually, in this article and in everything we're hearing in the build-up to COP this weekend. It's that the rich countries, like ours, seems funny in the context of many conversations, but we are a rich country, is causing huge problems for countries like India, countries like Somalia. This is not something in the future. This is something that's happening now. And I'm not hopeful that we're that bothered. We're bothered in terms of words, but the actions we're just not getting. So I feel this is repetition and something drastic has got to be done.
Mary, you any more hopeful?
Yes, I'm probably slightly more positive than that, just because I think that COP26, we really showed in Glasgow that we did feel this was really important. It was really good to see the event that the King led with politicians and business leaders as well, that just to show that actually this is a really, really important issue and that more needs to be done. There will be tensions around that sort of equity and fairness within who has to pay up more, because the US, China, Russia and the EU emit 63% of the carbon pollution in the atmosphere, while 10 of the most sort of climate vulnerable nations are collectively responsible for about 1%. So, the themes will talk around the sort of mitigation, the adaptation, finance and collaboration, but I always come back to this collaboration piece, and that's why I'm glad also the Prime Minister is attending, because even although there are 3 other members of cabinet going, I still think it was important. We have to show leadership on this, and we did such a good job at COP26. I really want us to keep flying the flag and bearing the mantle for this, and showing that we absolutely need to do this for the future for the world, and it's the future of humanity.
We're going to go to our last 2 stories. It's not every day that you see the Financial Times and the Daily Star sharing a front page in terms of choosing the same story to lead with, but they have for tomorrow. The FT Weekend talking about, of course, those big job cuts at Twitter with Elon Musk in charge, and the Daily Star have found someone who's resurrected the limp lettuce, if you remember that one, wondering whether the lettuce is going to outlive Elon Musk as the owner of Twitter. Taking a lighter note, Nancy, what do you make of this story and the way that they're going about these mass job cuts?
It's pretty horrendous, isn't it? I mean, I think everybody must be questioning whether they stick by Twitter, whether they're using it or whether they advertise on it. I mean, anybody who sacks people by email, anybody who sort of instantly, we're hearing all sorts of stories, people who are having their laptops wiped, who are having all their access to their emails just instantly gone. And they haven't done anything wrong, have they? This is not people who have been sacked for misbehaving. This is because the richest man in the world has taken over, and people don't always like his stance on things. So the platform it instantly took a hit, and he says he needs to strengthen it up. I mean, the lettuce is actually a Twitter executive sort of saying, will he be sacked by Elon before the lettuce wilts and disappears, as did the last prime minister? I mean, it's good that he's joking about it. It must be absolutely awful in the circumstances which we've just been discussing, where people are struggling for the mortgages anyway. These are hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs, and people just thrown out into the cold.
Mary, briefly, if you don't mind, is this a sign of the times?
Well, possibly, but I mean, I think certainly in this case, partly I'm not surprised, and certainly if he's done anything to breach employment laws, he'll be held to account for that. But it sounds like he might be getting rid of about half the staff, and he's looking at other revenue streams for Twitter. And I've been following him on Twitter, saying about the $8 per month to be accredited on Twitter. So he is an innovator. He's highly intelligent. He does things at a huge speed. So there's partly, I'm not surprised at some of this, but the human element, and as someone who does work in leadership and HR, it's absolutely important these devastating times when people have uncertainty and lose their job, that you support them through that process, which we will see whether he does or not. But certainly there's already, I think, a class action lawsuit from some of the Twitter employees going to him. So we'll find out there very soon.